Hold up.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It is Foxy98 here, and welcome back to a brand new video of my F1 2018 career mode for you guys today here on the channel. Today I'm here with the Canadian Grand Prix, and as you can tell via today, this is actually a double upload for today. If you haven't seen the Monaco Grand Prix, I'll give you a chance to go ahead and watch the Monaco Grand Prix before you come to this one, and you won't be spoiled on why this is a double upload. But basically, I've given you enough time now. In the Monaco Grand Prix, we were absolutely horrendous, and we crashed out, and we had a gearbox problem, and we had a power unit problem, and we just had problems all around, really. So I didn't really want to leave it at just like a rubbish episode in terms of like performance-wise. So I decided to go ahead and just upload the Canadian Grand Prix as well, because I thought I'd just put the two in together, and I've got plenty of career mode videos. I am quite far ahead in my career mode video. I believe I'm around about up to the German Grand Prix, so I'm in good shape at the moment. But anyway, moving on to the Canadian Grand Prix. This is a track that I've always excelled at. I've always absolutely loved the track. I love how it flows, and especially in the final chicane, you can really gain so much time on the AIs. And as you can see, then moving into these practice programs, we're just flying through them at the moment, getting all the programs that we need. And you can see here, this is ERS management, I believe, this one. And again, we're absolutely smashing the ERS management. And annoyingly, during the practice session, the 50-meter board was actually broken off by somebody. So I was sort of sometimes missing my braking points. But it was nothing too major. I just didn't know where the 50-meter board was. If it was there, then I'd know my exact braking point. But because I didn't, I just didn't, because I don't brake on, I think I brake about 75 meters sometimes in some circumstances. You can see just after the 100-meter, there I turned in early, obviously, and it looks like it looks a bit silly then. But as you can see, the qualifying simulation run, we absolutely smash it. So overall, we just really excelled, and I'm really happy with the practice session. I'm really confident heading into the Canadian Grand Prix, and I've got a lot that I want to get off my chest.
Great workout there today. How do you think it went? You had an incredible pace in practice. Would you say that you're pretty comfortable with the car? You left a lot of paint on the walls today. Were you struggling for grip, or did you just miss? Well, thanks anyway.
Yeah, so Claire, they're not really happy about my response, even though I answered only just the one question. She was basically talking about, was there problems with grip? I didn't really find any, yeah, I decided also for my main answer then is to try and boost up the chassis area. I gave a lot of stick to the chassis department in the Monaco Grand Prix, and that wasn't a case of me just like answering to try and annoy the chassis to make this a bit harder. I genuinely just thought the chassis was so poor that I needed to try and get a bit of a wake-up call. But here in Canada, it was working fine, so that's how it goes. That's how you answer the questions, and that's how I'm answering them. In Monaco, I'm an honest person. If it means honesty, if it means that being honest is not the best solution in all circumstances, honesty is how I work things. But anyway, we're going into qualifying now, into Q1, and as you can see here, we're coming towards the final corner now, and we're just absolutely smashing it through the final chicane, opening up the DRS boards. Kevin Magnussen currently fastest at the moment. Now it's Fernando Alonso, and now it's me, so that's quite nice to see, and that is going to be us safely through into Q2, and there you can see that 4th fastest in Q1, but of course, people do a lot of runs in Q1. They do about like 3-4 runs sometimes in Q1. I just do the one run because I'm confident I can get myself through. If I need to do a second run, I'll do a second run. But otherwise, we're looking good here at Canada. Moving on then into Q2, and we're going to be starting on the hyper soft tyres. Again, want to make sure that I'm on the 2-stop strategy. Don't want to do any stupid 1-stops. And as you can see, opening up the DRS board now, and we're coming up towards the start-finish line here. It's the end of Q2, so we've got to get a good lap in. And we do just that. We actually go fastest in Q2, which is a very positive sign for us as we head in towards Q3. And again, I'm full head of steam. I want to make sure that I can go ahead and try and pick up a good result here today. And as you can see, we get a very positive qualifying session ahead of Vettel and also Lewis Hamilton. So we're in good shape heading in towards the final part of qualifying. with, I believe, Charles Leclerc there being knocked out, which is a little bit of a shame, obviously, but the Sauber is not a quick car in this career mode. Moving on then into Q3, and Sebastian Vettel is currently fastest at the moment, but we're sure to try and overhaul that. As we go in towards the final chicane now, very, very nice, very calm through there. We're opening up the DRS board, take the shortest run to the line possible, and this is where you just gain all that time. We go fastest out of anybody, and because you can do two things in this track, the final chicane, no matter what, you can take this so much faster than anybody else. Also, you take that short run to the line, the AIs will not do that. They will take the long run to the line. And you can see that we went even better through the final chicane. And we are going to improve on our lap time and go even faster now into the 107s. So a brilliant lap there, qualifying complete. And it is eventually going to be pole position. And overall, we've basically gone ahead and just done Lewis Hamilton-styled qualifying from the Australian Grand Prix in real life, where he absolutely smashed the park by 0.6 of a second. We've got even better, obviously, but you can tell it's the final sector where all that time is gained. Take a good line in the chicane, take the short run to the line, and that will obviously be the fastest. And we've got another interview here with Claire, and she's basically going to go through the qualifying session with us, and she's obviously, first question then, she's asking, do we feel safer if we are ahead of the pack? For this one, I answered for the bottom one to go with showmanship. I would actually say what my responses are, but looking at my preview screen, it's absolutely terrible. I've got a better editing software at home, and I can actually view the preview screen, whereas here it's just full of blur, so you can see the answers that I'm bringing through there. And once again, just praising that chassis, because the car just stuck. Like the power unit, we've got a fresh power unit and a fresh gearbox in for this Grand Prix, because we are allowed to. Yeah. Without further ado though, perfect qualifying session. Let's take it forward into the race. Let's go to the Canadian Grand Prix.
We're back once again beside the St. Lawrence River here in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. The event first moved to a variant of this track back in 1978. It was won by none other than Gilles Villeneuve, the first Canadian to ever win his home race, and in whose honour the circuit would be renamed. With top speeds of around 210 miles per hour heading into the overtaking opportunity of turn 13, the 2.7 miles of the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve are some of the quickest on the Formula One calendar. There are 14 corners in total, with 60% of the lap taken at full throttle, and average lap speeds clock in at about 130 miles per hour. Anthony Davidson is alongside me as usual for the race today. Let's talk about Thomas. As with all the drivers at this level, they have a lot of ambition. But Formula One's a daunting step up from any other series, so expectations are high right from the start.
That's right, it is a difficult environment to come into. In junior categories, you're competing against drivers with similar levels of experience. But some of these guys in Formula One have been there for over a decade. But I have to say, in this case, it's so far so good.
So before the off, let's remind ourselves of yesterday's qualifying session with a look at the starting grid. Thomas lines up on pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Raikkonen, Vettel, Max Verstappen, and Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, Sainz, Grosjean, and Fernando Alonso, Perez, Ocon, Stoffel Van Dorn, and Magnussen, Leclerc, Gasly, Sergei Sirotkin, and Brendan Hartley. Ericsson and Lance Stroll rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Alright then, so we're heading onto the grid now here for the Canadian Grand Prix. As you can see by the strategy, it is going to be the two-stop race, really starting on the hyper soft tyres, moving to two sets of the ultra soft tyres, and then going to the end of the race from there. So without further ado, let's get ready for this Canadian Grand Prix. We've got 5 red lights for the start of this Grand Prix. It's lights out. Here we go here to start the Canadian Grand Prix. It's been a good start from Lewis Hamilton on the front row of the grid alongside us in towards the first corner. Now we're going to take a tight line in here. A little bit of contact there between myself and Hamilton. Nothing too major. A little bit more actually on the exit there of the second corner. And now as we make our way up towards the turn 3 now, you can see Hamilton just about trying to keep his car in there, doing his best to try and annoy me a bit. But we stay in front of Lewis Hamilton and we're up into the lead of the Grand Prix, and we stay there now. Hamilton has to sit back and wait a little bit longer for a potential opportunity to come back at us. But for now, we are in a good position in this Grand Prix. You can see Hamilton there having a little looking towards the hairpin on lap 2 of the Grand Prix now. So we survived the first lap of the Grand Prix. No real major dramas on the first lap actually, but as we make our way down towards the final chicane now, you can see here Hamilton closing up in the slipstream of my car there, but I've got the ERS in overtake, which of course, if you are unaware, using the ERS in overtake mode will give you better top end speed rather than using hot lap. So don't use hot lap when you're in the top gears. Moving on then into lap 3 of the Grand Prix, you can see here that we run a little bit wide there in towards the chicane there on the first sector. And that's put me off a little bit. Hamilton, though, got a great run through there. And with the DRS now, in this extra DRS zone, he's going to go for the move here in towards the chicane. But we managed to fend it off down the inside, park our car perfectly on the apex. And that is good from there. But Hamilton still fancies a run here. And he goes towards the hairpin now. But we just about cover that one off as well. So Hamilton looking threatening in the early phases, but for now we've got him under control, which is the main thing. But further back though, the two Ferraris are having a little bit of a scrap here. Raikkonen versus Vettel, and there's one of the Red Bulls there directly behind. I think it's Max Verstappen, but Vettel now goes for an attack here on Kimi Raikkonen in towards the first corner now. Around the outside he goes, he's going to stick it round the outside. He'll have the inside line then in towards turn 2, and he makes it stick, but Raikkonen still holds on in there, so Vettel has to work harder to make this move stick as they go down in towards this another left-hander chicane. Vettel's still on the outside, but eventually he is going to squeeze his way past Kimi Raikkonen, moves up into 3rd place in the Grand Prix, but a little bit feisty there from the two Ferraris. So me and Hamilton getting a little bit aggressive towards each other, and now the two Ferraris are getting a little bit aggressive towards each other. On to lap 8 of the Grand Prix, or lap 6, don't really know. We're coming into the pits now for our first stop of the Grand Prix, going on to a set of the ultra soft tyres. This is lap 8. And eventually now we're going to be coming out of the pits, but throughout the first stint really we had that threat from Lewis Hamilton. As soon as Lewis Hamilton got out of DRS range from me, I was able to then build my gap. I was faster than Lewis Hamilton, but he was sticking with me with the slipstream and the DRS and the ERS system that he was all using, all of his goodie tools, and he just then couldn't get close to me from when he was back up from there onwards. Moving on though, actually looking on board, Hamilton here having a little bit of a barge there with one of the Saubers. Now, because I actually managed to pull away from the DRS and the ERS and the slipstream and everything and build myself a gap, it was meant that I could then eventually pull away by quite a considerable margin. And this left, obviously, the front runners to pit, and they came out in a load of traffic, whereas for me, I rejoined in the lead of the Grand Prix. It took me 8 laps to come into to start the race, to fend off Hamilton, to build a gap, to then come into the pits and come back out of the pits and stay in the lead of the Grand Prix in just 8 laps. That's how quick I was going around this track, and of course that is probably down to the fact that the AIs never are fast around Canada, and also due to the fact that obviously I'm also very quick around Canada as well, and I've got a brand new power unit in and a brand new gearbox. So it's all about when they actually use them in the first place, but I don't really know for that matter. As you can see though, we're coming into the pits for our first stop of the Grand Prix. I think this is our first stop of the Grand Prix, or this might be a replay of us coming into the pits. I'm not actually 100% sure. I think this is us coming into the pit. I think this is our first stop of the Grand Prix. So just showing up pretty much off of that stop. And you can see here, this is how pretty much how big our advantage was. So you can see everyone else was fighting on track. And when we made our first stop here, we came out in front of Sergio Perez, and he was the only one that was anywhere near us. So that just shows the massive advantage that we did have. And then coming back onto the action here, Van Dorn locks up a little bit there. That forces Hamilton a little bit off the track there. So a little bit silly from Stoffel Van Dorn, silly mistakes there. But Hamilton makes the move stick on Stoffel, and now in towards the hairpin. Lewis Hamilton continues on his way. Vettel there trying to pressurize through. Raikkonen trying to go round the outside of Charles Leclerc, and he does make that one stick, Raikkonen, but Charles Leclerc sticks in there a little bit, but Raikkonen's going to get the better traction, actually shoves Charles wide there off the circuit. So Raikkonen getting aggressive now, and Max Verstappen in the background there having a look at Charles Leclerc, and he's going to do just that. He's going to go down the inside here, but he's not actually going to waste his time a little bit there, because Charles comes into the pits for his first stop of the Grand Prix, and that means that Verstappen sort of had to take a different line there, but Stoffel Van Dorn has more problems, and it was So in the same section that Hamilton overtook him a lap ago, now Vettel's going to go for it again. This time Van Dorn doesn't lock up, and Vettel has the overtake done a lot easier than Lewis Hamilton did. And now Van Dorn under even more pressure because he's obviously got Kimi Raikkonen now, who breezes past him in towards the hairpin. And he's actually in a very good position now to attack Vettel with DRS here, because Vettel will not have DRS. You will have to compensate with just the Ferrari power unit, whereas Raikkonen's going to have all the goody toys behind him. But Verstappen here, you can see now, pulls over towards the outside here on Stoffel Van Dorn, and in front you can see there, that's Raikkonen now. He goes around the outside and towards the chicane, so the Ferrari's fighting hard today. Vettel compromised on the exit of the chicane. Verstappen now's got the DRS here. Vettel won't have it, so Verstappen's got a great chance now to take over Sebastian Vettel for 4th place. This will be a net P4. He doesn't make it stick though, so Vettel just survives. And up in front then, Lewis Hamilton is carving his way through the fields, and he's caught up to the back of Esteban Ocon in the Force India. You can see here, he's just doing his overtakes in his natural spot, just going around the outside here. And it seems where the AIs seem to be preferring this slot as well. It's actually quite good that this third DRS zone has been invented by there, because a lot of the AIs, especially in this race, they were making overtakes in that specific section of the track. So it was nice to see, because they never really go for it all the time. But this year, they seem to be going for it a lot. And now you can see here, Kimi Raikkonen has caught up to Ocon, and now he's going to go for it. He breezes past Esteban Ocon, absolutely flies through there. And Vettel, they're locking up Verstappen, and Vettel having a fight there. Vettel locked up into the final chicane, causes contact with Verstappen, and Max makes it through. And now Hamilton is carving his way past Sergio Perez, and only now is Lewis Hamilton getting through Sergio Perez. Remember, I rejoined in front of Sergio Perez coming out of the pits, so this is a pretty far distance back here. But you can see as well, though, Hamilton's got a bit of problems here because he's overtaken Perez. But look at that. Kimi Raikkonen is right on the back of Lewis Hamilton. So Hamilton's got no time to breathe. In fact, I think Lewis is actually on the super soft tyres. He's doing a different strategy, whereas Kimi Raikkonen, I believe, is on the ultra soft tyres. So Raikkonen's got his tyres stepped softer than Lewis Hamilton. So that's interesting to spot. And Perez now has a little look at Hamilton. Hamilton has a little bit of a strange line there as he gets through the chicane. And now Perez with the DRS as well, and the Mercedes power unit, he is going to go for it. He's going to go towards the outside line, in towards the first corner. Contact is made. Hamilton squeezes Perez, completely shuts the door there. I'll be surprised if Sergio Perez gets on the radio and complains about that one. But eventually, after Hamilton basically aggressively stopped that attack, he had the whole first sector to himself and was able to pull away, and he cleared the DRS zone from Sergio Perez. And then eventually in that same chicane, Raikkonen goes through and makes a move on Sergio Perez. And looking further back here, we've got Daniel Ricciardo, who's really out of position in this Grand Prix. He's battling the Haas of Kevin Magnussen, but he's under pressure from one of the Force Indias of Esteban Ocon, who's obviously come in for a pit stop now. And yeah, look at that. Ocon just goes around the outside in towards the hairpin, and he just about hangs in there with Ricciardo. And with the DRS and the Mercedes power unit on board, it's actually going to be a very easy move for Ocon. And then he just flies through. There he goes. Now he's going to catch up to the back of Magnussen. Both him and Ricciardo will do so. But yeah, Ricciardo really out of position there, not where he should technically be, as one of the Sabbers there, Charles Leclerc, gets forced wide there by Stoffel Van Dorn. So Van Dorn making up places nice and easily, as Ricciardo now has a little look on the Force India there, but again, it doesn't work for him. But moving on to lap 21 of the Grand Prix, just wanted to let you guys know that I am in this Grand Prix, unlike Monaco, where I was pretty much nowhere, and also pretty much I was in the paddock actually, probably having an ice cream or something, just trying to imitate Kimi Raikkonen. But we're coming in for our second stop onto another set of the ultra soft tyres, and our advantage is absolutely massive. It's huge. I was so happy around this circuit that obviously having a fresh power unit in really did make a difference as well. And that's kind of intriguing to find that as soon as I've now put in a fresh power unit, I seem to be very, very fast. So I'd be interested to know, when did the AIs put in a fresh power unit in their car? Because of course the Spanish Grand Prix, I had absolutely no pace whatsoever. So I'm thinking maybe in the Spanish Grand Prix is when everyone put in a fresh power unit, compared to myself, where I've dragged it all the way to the 7th round. Yeah, you can see this is kind of a very easy race for us. And eventually, coming towards the latter stage of the race, nothing really happened behind, whereas in front I was experiencing, probably for the first time, lapped cars, going through, passing all the lap traffic, and getting a feel for what they're like this year. And I'll tell you what, in this game especially, the AIs are much better with the with getting out of the way when trying to unlap yourself. Just look at that. I mean, Gasly just completely moves over and backs right off on the throttle there. And was having a little bit of a brush of the wall there. But you can just tell they're just so much more better as we've got one of the Sauber cars there with the yellow flag, and he's going to retire from the race. That was Charles Leclerc that retired, and it'll come up on the screen in just a minute. Obviously, if you're this distance away where Magnussen is now, he's not going to let you through. But eventually, I catch right up to the back of Magnussen through this high-speed chicane, and eventually pulls over to the outside line and just completely backs off the throttle there. Because normally what they did is they moved out of the way, but they didn't let off the throttle as much. But this time they did. But on to the final lap of the Grand Prix then. We've had an absolutely sensational Canadian Grand Prix, and after the horrors of Monaco, everything went wrong. In this race, everything went right. That is redemption. We're back on top at the Canadian Grand Prix, and that is a perfect way to bounce back after a horrible race last time around. It is P1 here today, and we deserve that Grand Prix win. We qualified on pole position, we absolutely smashed it, and then in the race, again, we absolutely destroyed it and had a phenomenal Grand Prix, and it just goes to show how different some tracks are for me. The Spanish Grand Prix, that we weren't that competitive. In the Monaco Grand Prix, the less said the better, to be honest. We were absolutely dreadful. And then we go back to a track that I thoroughly enjoy, and we go ahead and absolutely destroy it. So it's critical that we do this here week in, week out. But of course, we've got some good tracks coming my way, though. We've got the French Grand Prix coming up. Well, actually, I should probably announce that now. The French Grand Prix, I'll only be showing the practice and the qualifying and the race results, because the entire race, the recording failed, which is a shame. I'll go through it in that episode for the French Grand Prix. I'll be double uploading when that French Grand Prix comes out, because I don't want that to be the only Crema video of the day again. But just to let you know, unfortunately, there won't really be a French Grand Prix. And then obviously we've got Austria as well, which is a track that I also thoroughly love driving around. And then we start to go to some tricky tracks of Silverstone. We've got Hockenheim, not sure how I'm going to be there. And then we've got the Hungarian Grand Prix as well. They're going to be tracks that I'll be struggling at. Then Belgium and Monza, we'll look to fight back. Then we got Singapore, I love the track. Then we've got some tough tracks then away with the likes of Japan, and you can tell USA is even quite a tough one. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be topsy-turvy for the season, but wherever we're strong, we're always capitalising, and that's what we need to keep on doing. And where we're weak, we've just got to do the best we can.
Good day today. Tell us about it from your perspective. Was there really any competition for you today? Things are looking up after last week, aren't they? Another podium. You must be getting used to it up there. It looks like you're schooling your rivals at the moment. Appreciate your time.
So there we go then, that is the interview with Claire done and dusted. And that is everything for this Canadian Grand Prix. An absolutely sensational result. We couldn't have asked for anything more, and especially after the horror of Monaco, all we needed to do in the Canadian Grand Prix was bounce back and show that we didn't lose any form of confidence after what was a terrible race, and we did just that. And I'm really happy that we were able to take the victory here today, and we've got some entertaining tracks coming up. And it's going to be a very, very close fight, especially with Lewis Hamilton, who seems to be the one that I'm after at the moment. But as you can see, we're gathering the rest of our resource points, and in terms of the reputation, we go right back up again, which is absolutely critical, because in the Monaco Grand Prix aftermath, we lost a hell of a lot of reputation after our poor performance, and our contract and our value as well has gone back up, because our value actually dropped below what our contract was. But that's going to be it for this Grand Prix. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. If you have, feel free to drop it a like. If you're new around here as well and you haven't subscribed to the channel, feel free to drop a subscription. That'd be absolutely awesome. Until then, guys, I will see you next time for the French and the Austrian Grand Prix. But until then, guys, see you then. Take care all.